welcome to the Coding Channel. Today is the 11th episode of our Java tutorial series for beginners. And in this episode, we are going to talk about how to trace a for loops in Java. This and more when we come back. Our source code for today will focus on tracing a for loop. So in here, we will have a deeper understanding on how Java really execute each statement inside of our for loop. So let's begin. Now inside of the main method, if you can see a variable declarations there, so all you need to do is just to write the variables. So for instance, we have x, and then with a 0 initial value, so you just have to write x equals 0, and then n is equal to 8. And inside of the loop, I have here the steps on how we trace the for loop. First, in the initialization argument, I call it as a start because the Java only execute or read this statement once, which is the initialization. And then after that, it will go directly to the condition, that is the step 1, to test the value of I. If it's still, for example, if I is still greater than 0. So if it is true, if the result of the condition, if once we evaluate is true, so that's the only time that we proceed to step number 2, which is to execute the statement. So these are the statements. So we have the assignment statement and the output statement. And then after executing those statements, the next step, which is step number 3, is to either increment or decrement. So it depends on the initial value of I. Since we've started, for example, 5, so we need to subtract 1 to I, so that when we test the condition again, so there should be a changes in the value of I. So meaning to say, after the step 3, you just need to repeat step 1, 2, and 3, or go back to step 1 until the condition is false. So once the condition is false, that's the only time that we exit the loop. Okay, so let's begin again. Now, inside of the for loop, there's an initial value. So I equals 5. So just write 5 there. And then we need to test, is 5 greater than 0? True. So since true, we will execute the assignment statement on line number 7. Okay, now take note, if this is your first time to encounter this type of assignment statement, we call this as a ternary operator. Okay, where's the ternary operator? The question mark and the colon. Okay, so it's like actually an if else statements. It's like if n mod 2 is equal to 0, so x is equal to n plus I, else x is equal to I times 3. Okay, so this is a it's like a shortcut. Okay, we put all the statements in just one statement instead of having multiple lines there using if else. Okay, so let's try to trace this one. Okay, so we are trying to assign either n plus I or I times 3. So for example, let's try. Let's substitute the value of n. N is 8. So 8 mod percent sign 2, meaning to say, if you encounter the percent sign, we are talking of the remainder. Okay, so it's like 8 divided by 2. Okay, if the remainder, for example, is equal to 0. Okay, if 8 divided by 2 is a 4, remainder 0. So if the remainder is equal to 0, we will execute the expression after the question mark. So this one, n plus I. Okay, so what's the current value of I? 5. What is the current value of n? 8. So 8 plus 5 is 13. That would be the value of x. So we will now, I will not erase a 0 there so that you can still see all the values of n. Okay, so now the value of n is, the value of x is 13. Okay, and then after that, there is an assignment, output statement. So since these two statements are inside of the curly braces of for loop, the left and right curly braces here. Okay, so meaning to say, every iteration, we need to execute these two statements. Okay, the assignment statement and the output statement. Okay, let's go back. So we have a first output here. So system.print x. So what is the value of x? The current value of x, 13. Then plus the white space. So I have here an output area. So I'll just have to type 13 and then just put a space there. Okay, so in the event that this one we've used, for example, ln, okay, so what do you think is the difference? If we use a print ln method here after printing x and then a space there, okay, so the insertion point or cursor automatically on the next line. Okay, so let's try this one, the print ln. Okay, so next step is the I minus I, or the pre-decrement. Okay, meaning we will just subtract 1 to the current value of I, which is 5. So 5 minus 1 is 4. 4. And then after the step 3, okay, what are we going to do? We will go back to step number 1, which is to test the current value of I, which is now 4. Is 4 greater than 0? True. So since if it is true, we will execute the assignment statement and the output statement the second time around. Okay, so let's start again. X is equal to n. The current value of n is still 8. Okay, 8. 8 mod 2. 8 mod 2 is still what? 8 mod 2 is still greater. 8 mod 2 is still 0, right? 8 divided by 2 is still 0. So meaning we will execute the n plus I. So n plus I, n which is 8 plus I. What's the value of I now? 4, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So 12. So that would be the value of x. So we will just print the value of x here, and then next line. Okay, next. After printing minus I, so I now will become 3. And then we need to test. Is 3 greater than 0? True. Okay, so execute again. Since if you can see that n is always 8, so meaning to say it's always true, and we will just execute this one. Okay, we will only execute I times 3 if the condition is false. Since n, we don't have any assignment statement here that would change the value of n, so that is why in this case we always execute the n plus I. Okay, because the condition is always true. So n plus I, 8, 9 plus 3 is 11. Okay, so that would be now the value of x. And then system that print ln x. So our next output is 11. And then minus I. So I 3 will become now 2. That's the current value of I. And then we need to test. It's 2 greater than 0. Okay, true. So again, we will execute this one. And n plus I, so we have 8 plus 2 is 10. And then display. So we have now 10 here. And minus I, so this will become now 1. And then test again. Is 1 greater than 0? True. Okay, so again, we will execute this statement. N plus I and then assign to x. So 8 plus 1, 9. Okay, and then print. Okay, so we have now. And then next, after printing, okay, the cursor moves to the next line. This time around, I minus I, so this will become now a 0. Okay, so the value of I now is 0. Okay, let's try to test now. Is I greater than 0? False. So since it's already false, Okay, go out of that loop. Okay, we will not continue. We will not execute anymore the assignment statement since the condition is false. And then that's it. That's the end of our tracing. So the final output is 13, 12, 11, 10, and 9. So if you're going to ask you what is the final value of I? If we're going to print that, the final value of I is 0. Okay, so let's try to run this one. Let me just make this as a comment just for you to see the sample run. Okay, if we're going to run, the output is 13, 12, 11, 10, and 9. 13, 12, 11, 10, 9. Okay, so we are correct. That's how simple it is to trace the for loop. Now let us try another example. This time around, we have a nested for loop. Okay, so we have in line number 4, we have the variables with initialization. We have I, we have j equals 0 and equals 3. Okay, and then inside of our outer for or the mother for, this one is a child or inner for. That's why this one is called nested. There's a for loop inside of our for. Okay, so I equals 1. So let's try to write it down. Okay, I equals 1 and then test. Is I less than or equal to n? Is 1 less than or equal to n? N is equal to 3. Is it less than? True. Okay, if it is true, the next step is to execute this statement inside of our loop. Okay, now take note and be careful. We can it's intentional that I did not put a curly braces here. Okay, take note that there are two output statements inside, okay, or after the inner for. Now, if in the event that you can see any curly braces here, by default, okay, there's only one statement which is under the for loop. Okay, this first output statement. Meaning to say, the other output statement will be executed once the inner loop is already false. Okay, even it doesn't matter even if you align the output statement over here. So it seems that these two statements are under the inner for loop, but actually it's not. Okay, so let's try. So again, this one is true, so we will go directly inside of another loop, the inner loop. Okay, and we'll execute the initialization here. J equals 1. So from a 0, this will become now 1. And then j, is j less than or equal to I? Is 1 less than or equal to the current value of I, which is 1? True. They are equal, right? So if it is true, we will execute the output statement. So the first output is the current value of I, which is 1. So we will just have to put it here. Okay, 1. Since this one is print, so meaning to say the insertion point or cursor is still on the current line. Okay, let's after printing this one, okay, take note we will not go in directly in this second output statement because this one is outside of the inner for, and we will continue, okay, to execute the increment portion or area of our inner loop, which is j++. So our j now will become 2. And then we need to test, is 2, which is the current value of j, less than or equal to 1? False. So since this one is false, that's the only time that we execute the output statement outside of that loop. Okay. So what will happen now is instead of the insertion point before is on the first line. So this time around, after executing this statement, so it will we are now on the second line. Okay. So next, after this output statement, okay, just printing a new line. So we will go back to the increment area of the outer for. Okay, so I++, so this will become now 2. And then after the increment, we will now test again the current value of I. Is 2 less than or equal to n, which is 3? True. If it is true, so we will go back again to the inner for loop. And we will initialize again the j to 1. Okay, so every time we go inside of our inner loop, okay, we will initialize it. Okay, and then test the condition. Is j, which is now 1 again, less than or equal to 2? Okay, because that's the current value of I. True. So what are we going to do? We will now print or execute this statement. System.out.print I. The current value of I is 2. Okay, we are on the second line, so that's why, okay, our output there is a 2. And then j++, so j will become now 2. And after the increment, we will test is a 2, which is the current value of j, less than or equal to I. They're equal, so meaning true. So we will display again the current value of I, which is a 2. Okay, so we are still on the second line, so that's why we have a 2, 2 there. And then j++, so j now will become a 3. And then test is 3 less than or equal to I. Okay, false, because I is 2. So we will print a new line again. So we are now on the third line. And then I++, so I now will become 3. And then test again. Is 3 less than or equal to n? Is 3 equal or less than to n? They're equal. True. So we will execute again the inner loop the third time around. Okay. And we will initialize again j to 1. And then you test. Is j, which is 1, less than or equal to I, which is 3? True. And then system.out.print the current value of I, which is now 3 on the third line. Okay. And then j++, so this will become now 2. And then compare, is j less than or equal to I? True. And then we print again the current value of I, which is 3. I'm sorry, which is 3 over here. Okay. And then after printing j++, so this will become now 3. And is 3 less than or equal to 3? True. Okay. Then print another I, which is 3. And j++, so this will become now 4. Is 4 less than or equal to I? False. So therefore, we will execute the output statement, the new line. Okay, so we are now in the fourth line, something like that. And then I++, so this will become now 4. Is 4 less than or equal to n? False. That's the only time that we exit. Okay, and we're done. So the final output is 1, 2, 2, and 3, 3, 3. Okay, if we're going to run this, okay, we're going to run, so the output is 1, 2, 2, and 3, 3. Now, in the event that we're going to print the final value, for example, of I and j, so let me just comment this one. Okay, so let's try to print the final value of j. In our tracing, the final value of I is 4, the final value of j is 4. Okay, so let's try to run again. Okay, so we have 1, 2, 2, 3, 3. The final value of I is 4, the final value of j is 4, which is correct. So that is how we trace the nested for loop. If you have questions, don't hesitate to comment down below in our comment section, and I will answer all your clarifications with regards to the tracing of a for loop. Okay, let's try another example. In here, we have an input statement. We have an output statement. Enter any value. For example, the user have entered a 3, so that's the value of n. So we have, because we have sc.next int here, and sc is the object name of the scanner. So we will assign now 3 to n. Okay, and then let's start. Int j is equal to 2. Okay, so we have now 2. And then is a 2 less than or equal to n? True. So we will execute the statement count equals 0. So we will have An initial value now, I is equal to 1. And then we need to test, is 1 less than or equal to j? True. So we will execute the if statement. If j mod j mod I is 2 divided by 1, remainder 0, true. So count plus plus, so count now will become 1. And then after that, j plus plus, since we are inside of the inner loop, j plus plus, this will become now 3. And 3, I'm sorry, it's I plus plus. Okay. I plus plus, so this will become now 2. Okay, is 2 less than or equal to j? True. So 2 divided by 2, remainder 0, so count plus plus. So we have now 2. And then I plus plus, so this will become now 3. Is 3 less than or equal to j? False. So we will exit the inner loop, and we will execute the if statement inside of the outer loop. So if count is equal to 2, yes, true. So what are we going to do? System.out.print j. So that's why we have now the initial output here, 2. Okay, that's the value of j. And then space. Okay, and then next, let's go back to j plus plus. J plus plus, this will become now a 3. And then we need to test, is 3 less than or equal to n? True. Okay, so again, we will initialize count to 0 again. And also the I will go back to 1 again. And then is I less than or equal to j? True. Okay, so execute the if statement. J, which is 3 mod I, 3 divided by 1, remainder 0. Okay. Count plus plus, so this will become now 1. And then I plus plus, so I is will become now 2. And is I less than or equal to j? Is 2 less than or equal to j, which is 3? True. So again, execute the if statement. So j 3 mod 2, okay, remainder is not equal to 0. Therefore, we will not execute the count plus plus here. And we will just increment the value of I, which is now 3. Okay, is 3 less than or equal to j? True. So okay, so 3 mod 3, remainder is equal to 0, so count plus plus, so this will become now 2. Okay, and then after that, I plus plus, so I now will become 4. Is 4 less than or equal to 3? False. So out. And then is count is equal to 2? True. So what are we going to do? Print the value of j, which is 3. Okay, so since there's a white space there, so we have 2 and then a space of 3. And what's next? A j plus plus, so this will become now 4. And then test, is 4 less than or equal to n? False. So meaning exit. So the final output is 2 and 3. So let's try to run. For example, if the input is 3, so the output is 2 and 3. So there you go. So that's how simple it is, okay, to trace the nested for loop with an if statements. So these are the source code for this episode. And that's all for today. And if you like this video, please give us a thumbs up and consider subscribing. And as always, show your love through comments and favorites. God bless and thank you for watching.